All right. Pull up my show notes. There we go. All right, you ready?
Ready to go.
All right. Hello and welcome to episode 5 of season 2 of the Hockey Nuts podcast. My name is Wayne. I'm here with Steve. How's it going today, Steve?
Going great, Wayne. Good to be with you. Another great week to talk about hockey. I tell you, I'm pumped.
And I don't know if you noticed, but this is a bit of a milestone for us. I know season 2, episode 5 doesn't seem to be a whole lot newsworthy, but it's actually our 50th episode.
Wow, that is really that's us. I didn't know that.
Since we started doing this, just over a year ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So,
Then
yeah.
it's been a lot of fun. This is a blast.
Yeah, we're having a fun talking hockey, and we're getting even more excited because the training camps, actually most teams, the players report tomorrow. It's today, of course, is Wednesday the 13th, and tomorrow the 14th, Thursday, most players or most teams have their players reporting to training camp.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the Western Conference, but I was looking at an article on the NHL.com today that on the Eastern Conference, every team in the Eastern Conference has their first practice on Friday. I would imagine that the Western Conference is going to be the same. They probably have that in the CBA. That's why all the teams are starting up all on the same day. But yeah, practices start Friday.
Yeah, that's great. That's great news.
And the first preseason games are probably within a couple of days after that. They don't waste time like they do in other sports. As soon as they start practicing, they start playing games. So, preseason is here. We are, I think, less than 3 days away from the first preseason games. I think Saturday is the first game. There's one game Saturday.
Yeah, you're right.
And then everybody else has a whole bunch of games on Sunday. Preseason.
Yeah, I think the Vegas Golden Knights got a matinee game on Sunday that's going to be on TV, and I'm probably going to watch that. If I'm not mistaken, it's from T-Mobile Arena.
Yep.
So I plan on tuning that in and watching, see how they do.
So it's going to be very exciting coming up because we're finally getting back to NHL action.
Yeah.
But with that, we've got a lot to talk about tonight. I know it's only been, 6 days since we last recorded, but we're back on our regular Wednesday night schedule. And this week will be week 2 of our 4-week series previewing all 31 NHL teams. So we've got to talk about that. And tonight we're going to be talking about the Cantral Division.
Yes.
So this is now officially the smallest division in the NHL. It's the only division left with just 7 teams. Everybody else has 8.
That's right. And I may throw my 2 cents in a little bit later on in the podcast, Wayne, and we'll talk about things like the Saddle Dome and et cetera, but we'll talk. But
Yep.
It is right now the smallest division in hockey. You're right.
It sure is. So anyway, so we've got all of that to talk about, and we've got some news that's come up. And some not so news in terms of there's just a few players left that are restricted free agents that haven't signed yet, and there's one big headliner with the Bruins that still hasn't signed. We'll talk about his situation, and then we'll also touch on all the other restricted free agents that have yet to sign. But anyway, before we get going, let's take a pause real brief just to remind you that you can find our show just about anywhere you can get podcasts, plus some additional areas. First and foremost, You can find us at thehockeywriters.com. That's a website that has a lot of hockey content by professional journalists and amateur journalists like ourselves as well. And they have a podcast channel or a page that lists a whole bunch of hockey-related podcasts, and we are on that as well. And you can find that at thehockeywriters.com. You can find us right on our website at thehockeynuts.com. You can find us through just about any app that you get your podcast from. Anywhere from iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Google Play Music, the Apple, whatever they call it now. I don't have an iPhone, so I don't know what it's called. The Apple Podcast app, I think, is what it's called.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different places you can find us. Basically, do a search for the Hockey Nuts. You're sure to find us right there. We have the big triangular-shaped blue and white logo. It's pretty easy to find, and that's something I've been meaning to work on too, is getting our logo changed. Steve and I have a great picture of the two of us with the Stanley Cup from earlier this spring that I'm going to be incorporating into our new logo. I just need to find the time to work on that. So yeah, we've got some good pictures there for that. But anyway, you can also support the show by sharing it with everyone you know, retweeting it, all kinds of ways to get involved with the show that way. We always encourage our listeners to give us some feedback. You can reach us at feedback@thehockeyknuts.com. You can tweet us. I'm at Wayne Halley 9. Steve is at sball504man. You can reach us through our Facebook page at facebook.com/thehockeyknuts. We actually have a YouTube channel that when we record, we often live stream, and we are tonight. We're live streaming the recording of that, so you can actually watch us make the sausage, so to speak. So you can find us right on our YouTube channel. I've got a shortcut set up for that. Just go to thehockeyknuts.com/YouTube, and that will just forward you right to our YouTube channel. If you wanted to financially support us, we have two great ways to do that. You can support us through our two affiliate links that we've got set up. One is with Amazon, and the other one is with HockeyMonkey.com. And the HockeyMonkey.com one is a website for folks that actually are involved with the game. Whether you or a family member is a hockey player, coach, referee, whatever you are, you can get all your gear in order to be involved in the game at that level right at HockeyMonkey.com. And of course, everybody knows what Amazon is and what they do. So in order to financially support us, all you have to do is just go to thehockeyknuts.com, click on the affiliate links on the right-hand side of the page. You'll see the ads for both Amazon and the Hockey Monkey. And click on those links, and it'll send you to those pages. And just a small portion of any purchases you make at those two websites will come back to us, but you won't pay anything extra. So it's a great way to financially support us without having to cost you a dime. So we appreciate those who've done that in the past, and of course we appreciate those who will do that in the future. All right. So with that aside, let's get going on some of the news and headlines of the week. Like I said at the top of the show, we've got our Central Division preview to talk about. We'll talk about that later in the show. But we also need to talk about the rookie tournaments that have been going on, and most of them have been wrapped up already. We've got more signings to talk about, and just a few other interesting stories that have come up over the past several days. So first and foremost, let's get the signings out of the way and get everybody caught up with all of the signings that have happened over the past 6-7 days or so.
Yeah.
All right, we last left off with who? Let's see, we last recorded when Sam Bennett, right?
Sam Bennett was the last guy, I believe.
Yeah, we did talk about him on the last show, so if you want to hear us talk about that signing, you just hit us on episode 4 or last week's show, and you'll be able to hear us talk about that. So that brings us to September 7th. And the next one we got a couple of entry-level ones. First and foremost, Jacob Middleton, 21-year-old defenseman, signed with the San Jose Sharks. Signed an entry-level contract, 3 years, 2.205 total value. So it's an average cap hit of $735 per year. Probably a guy that will probably end up in the minor leagues to start and then work his way to make on to the team. I don't know what you thought of that one.
I didn't really. It's an entry level deal, and be honest with you, Wayne, that's all I know about it. I haven't followed Jacob Middleton.
Yeah, he played for the Barracuda last year, had 9 points in 50 games. Probably will be destined for the Barracuda again this year. We'll work to get his, make a name for himself and try to get up to the NHL. That's pretty much all there is to say about him. Dmitry Samorukov, 18-year-old defenseman, signed with the Oilers.
Yep.
On the 7th as well. 3-year entry-level deal worth $2.775. That's an average cap hit of $886 per year. So a little bit of a higher-end player. He is only 18. This is probably one. He played 67 games with the Guelph Storm in the OHL last year, 20 points in 67 games. My guess is if he plays any games at the NHL level, he'll be one of those guys that plays in that where they're allowed to play up to 9 games before they got to send him back to junior. You might see him in 1 or 2 games if he plays good enough. You're certainly going to see him in the preseason.
Right.
And at some point, he will probably end up back in Guelph. He is only 18 years old, so. But he did sign for an $886, 6'2", 181. So he's a little on the light side for how tall he is. So my expectation is he'll end up back in juniors, but he's a guy to keep an eye on in the future if you're an Oilers fan. All right, next one is an NHL contract. Bo Horvat, 22-year-old center, signed a 6-year, $33 million contract with the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah.
His average cap hit was 5.5 per year. He was a restricted free agent, of course, and signing a 6-year deal. Obviously, Vancouver likes him and wants to stick him around for a while.
Right. You got to say that they're pleased with him. $33 million commitment is a lot of money.
Yep.
$5.5 million per season. I've seen Bo Horvat play, and I don't keep tabs on the Canucks to be able to tell you ins and outs of all of his game. But obviously, when we come to talk about the future, he's somebody that Vancouver believes is part of it.
Yep.
So
he's a 20-goal scorer. He was drafted 9th overall in the first round in the 2013 draft. So he's a high-end draft pick. He had 52 points last year in 81 games, 20 goals, 32 assists. He had 40 points in 82 games the year before that. So his numbers are still climbing, and his rookie year he had 25 points in 68 games. So his numbers are steadily improving. But I think he's a future cornerstone piece for the rebuilding Vancouver Canucks. They're going to have another rebuilding year there. I don't expect them to do much of anything, but Bo Horvat is definitely a big part of their future.
Right.
All right, let's talk about Damon Severson.
Yeah, that came off today, didn't it, Wayne?
23-year-old defenseman. Was it today? It was just a couple. Yeah, yesterday, September 11th.
Yeah.
So 2 days ago, actually now.
2 days ago, yeah.
23-year-old defenseman signed with the New Jersey Devils, a 6-year deal worth a total of $25 million. That's an average cap hit of 4.166 per year. He was a second-round draft pick, 60th overall in the 2012 draft. And, again, this is a situation where this is his first big boy contract. That's what I like to call it. Get out of that entry-level deal, you get your first big boy contract. Well, this is it for him.
Yeah.
obviously, New Jersey wants to stick him around for a while, signing him 6 years. I think a lot of teams are signing these longer contracts too. I think long term that helps them with the cap value because then they can get away with signing a guy for a lower amount of money per year by giving him that extra, that length of term.
Right.
And I think that helps the team in the long run because they can keep the salary cap down,
Right.
which gives them a chance to compete. Because if you get too many guys making too much money, you turn into the Chicago Blackhawks, and you get in a situation where you got to get rid of a bunch of guys. Bruins did that after 2013. They got in salary cap hell and had to get rid of a bunch of guys. So so we've seen teams do it in the past, and I think these longer term deals are a way for teams to try to get around or try to control as much of that as possible. But anyway, back to Severson. He had 31 points in 80 games last year. 3 goals, 28 assists. Not bad for a defenseman.
Stay at home?
I would say somewhere in between. Stay-at-home guys would probably be in the 15 to 20 point area. He got 31. 21 the year before and 17 the year before that. So again, this guy's numbers are going up. If he can crack the 40 point, I wouldn't exactly call him stay-at-home, but
definitely a top 6 pairing guy, it sounds like.
Oh, for sure. He'll be on the team.
And I think Wayne, I have a special place inside for defensemen. I think it's the toughest position in hockey.
It is.
And when you have a guy that's playing the way you want him to play, and there's attributes about his game that you want to keep, signing a defenseman and locking him up long term is the way to go, rather than a 2-year deal or a 1-year deal or something like that. So New Jersey, again, they must see something in him that makes him very valuable to them.
Yep. Yeah, and having continuity, especially with your defensemen and goaltenders, is definitely a key to having a good team for sure. All right, and the last 2 signings that have happened since we last recorded are just a couple of probably low-level two-way deals. My list doesn't tell me whether or not it's a two-way deal. I'm just guessing. But Brandon Maschinter and Petteri Lindbom both signed contracts worth 1 year at a total of $650,000. Lindbom signed with the Blues, and Maschinter signed with the Sharks. Both signed on September 11th. And that's all the contracts that have actually happened since we last recorded. They haven't had any yesterday or today, at least today, none announced as of yet.
That's right.
So let's take a quick look real quick at who is left out there. First, let's start with the restricted free agents. First and foremost, at the top of the list, David Pastrnak. We've talked about him almost every week since then. 21-year-old Bruins forward, 70 points last year in 75 games, and he is still waiting for his contract. And Bruins fans, I got to tell you, are in a big panic over this because there's recent rumors that have come out that have said apparently his agent is flapping his gums saying that Pastrnak could sign the KHL if the Bruins don't do what they need to do and sign him to a deal. And I've heard all sorts of rumors as to what Pastrnak is asking for. Everything from 7.5 on up to 11 a year or something like that. I even heard one report where the initial ask from the Pastrnak camp was for like 11.5 a year, which is like $1 million over what the Bruins have in cap space. Well, I don't know why they would ask for more than what the Bruins have in cap space for a guy like him. And 11+ million for Pastrnak would be robbery in my opinion.
Yeah,
Pasternak's not an $11 million player.
Yeah.
But everybody keeps pointing at that Draisaitl deal as something, and it's that Draisaitl deal obviously is going to increase the price for Pasternak for Boston. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Let's just hope that something gets done here soon.
Hey, the last headline I read said the GM is talking with Boston, and the agent for Pasternak is talking with the GM. I guess that's Sweeney.
Yep.
Every single day they're talking.
Yeah, they're
about
talking
it.
almost daily at this point. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I expect
So
something will get done. I would, probably in the next week or so. Hopefully by the time we record next week, and I think we said this last week, that
I think we
Pasternak, Pasternak will
Yeah.
be signed. So,
I think you're right.
but I think it's a matter of time now. At least they're talking. They weren't even talking last week.
Yeah.
Both sides were waiting for the other to start the conversation last week.
Right.
Now they're at least talking every day. So
Yeah.
I fully expect something to get done here. I don't think Pasternak's going anywhere.
If things weren't going well, then it would be just like you said last week. No negotiations. There wouldn't be anything to talk about, and they wouldn't even say anything.
Yeah.
But it's not. They're talking every single day. So obviously, I'm sure he likes being with the Bruins, or this wouldn't be going forward. So
Yep.
I think that something's going to happen.
Yep. I agree. So,
Yep.
All right. The next person on the list, as far as restricted free agents still out there, Andreas Athanasiou, 23-year-old center, restricted free agent for the Red Wings, 29 points in 64 games last year. I don't know the details of his situation, but I do know he is out there as of yet unsigned. And I think I did see an article where he too has threatened to go over to Europe to play if they don't sign him soon.
Yeah.
So obviously Detroit will be looking to get him signed fairly quickly. And this is a player, he scored 18 goals last year, but only 29 points.
Right.
I just don't know what kind of money Athanasiou's asking, but if it's anything over 3-4 million, I think is too much, but for a guy like him.
Right.
But I guess we'll find out on that one. Josh Anderson with the Columbus Blue Jackets has yet to be unsigned. 29 points in 78 games last year. Similar player to Athanasiou, where he had more goals than assists. He had 17 goals last year and 12 assists. So, again, Columbus will be wanting to lock him up pretty soon. Minnesota has Marcus Foligno as a restricted free agent. 26-year-old left winger, 80 games last year, 23 points. This one, he's still technically a restricted free agent, but difference between his and the others is his last contract was not a entry-level deal. He was last paid $2.25 million.
Oh yeah.
So whether or not they want to continue paying for 23 points, 2.25, I think that's right around the right ballpark for that amount of production.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but
Sounds good to me. I
Yeah.
mean,
so I don't know if he's asking for a significant pay raise or not.
sometimes correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes I would think it might be bonus structure, or maybe it's an incidental that we don't think about.
Yeah.
But it's important to the player. If I do so well, if I do this, I expect a bonus of this, and ways to if you scratch my back, if I do what you want, you give me what I want, that type thing maybe.
Yeah, and the point total that he got last year is pretty standard for his last several years. I mean, if you look at his last 4 years in Buffalo, he had 19 points, 20 points, 23, and 23. So 20 to 25 points is about what you're going to get from him at this point in his career.
Right.
So Obviously, Minnesota doesn't want to pay too much for that. And then the last restricted free agent I have is Nikita Zadorov with the Avalanche. He's a 22-year-old defenseman. He had 56 games played last year, 10 points, all assists. But, of course, granted he was on the Avalanche, but he was a -20 in the plus-minus category.
Wow.
But again, Avalanche. They were a bad team last year, so they had a lot of players in the minus category, I'm sure. All right, so as far as restricted free agents, that's all I have record of. Let's take a look at unrestricted. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on these, but just list a bunch of names that are still out there. Of course, Jaromir Jagr is still looking to play. He still says he wants to play in the NHL this year, so he's out there. He's 45 years old, had 46 points last year. I mean, it's got to be a team out there that's going to find some value in his being around. I mean, just the fact that they know for sure that at least a few games a year they're going to sell up to 10 to 12 tickets just to bring the traveling Jagrs in. I mean, that's got to be worth something right there, right?
Those lucrative traveling Jagrs bringing in their cash.
I mean, Jagr should sign in Calgary. That's where those guys are from. So then he'd be forcing the traveling Jagrs to get season tickets. So Brian Giunta's also out there. P.A. Parento, Jerome McGinley, Mike Ribeiro, Daniel Winnick, Alex Chason, Yari Korpakowski, Cody Franson, Scotty Upshaw, Brendan Peary, Dennis Weidman, Ryan White, Chris Vandevelde, Feder Tootin, Chris Kelly, Yuri Hudler, Roman Polak, Joseph Carmosa, Jay McClement. Those are just some of the names that are out there as unrestricted free agent. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, but those are just some of the bigger names, at least in terms of production from last year, that are still out without a contract. Most of those guys, if you look at that list, they're all 30, 35 and up type players.
That's right.
Older players, so.
Yeah. I think it's if Jagr does play this year in the NHL, I'm going to go out on a limb. Either Florida's going to sign him back, and I don't know if there'll be a reduced contract there, or he's going to go to Calgary.
I think Florida has said that they're definitely
not going to
take him back. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a shame.
So they're looking to move ahead, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at, before we head on to news stories, let's take a look at the other category of signings, the player tryout. I've got an article that has all of the tryout contracts, and I may be reiterating something that we might have done last week, but I'm going to go down through some of these players real quick and just list some of the players where they're going to be playing at least their preseason. Now, of course, a pro tryout contract, if you're not aware, is basically... It's what it is what it sounds like. It's a tryout contract. So neither side is obligated in any way to continuing after a certain point. Basically, all it means is these players are going to be playing with these particular teams during the preseason. Oftentimes, the players end up not signing with that team, and then based on how they do in preseason games, end up signing with another team. You see that quite a bit. But here's where some of the players are going now. Arizona's got Tyson Strawn, defenseman. Buffalo's going to have Cody Golubev, defenseman. Calgary's going to have Tanner Glass, Joseph Carmosa, Dylan Olsen, all in their camp. Chicago's got Cody Franson, Drew Miller, John Mitchell, Mark Stewart, all coming into their camp. Colorado's got,
some of these guys are guys like you said that are on the unrestricted free agent list.
Yep. And they're still right, and because they've signed a pro tryout contract, they're still considered unrestricted free agent. Anybody can sign them at any time, but these guys will be playing with these respective teams at least for the preseason until they sign or don't sign. Some of them may get through the preseason and just announce their retirement if they can't get a job.
Right.
So
I hear you.
you'll see that too. Colorado's got Jared Cowan coming in. Columbus has Brad Thiessen, Brady Austin, Joe Pendenza, Miles Cooley's, Brett Gallant. Some of those names I haven't heard of. Dallas has R.J. Umberger. Detroit has David Booth and P.A. Parento. Edmonton has Chris Kelly. Florida has Nikolai Beloff, Brandon Peary, Harry Zolnarchik. That was a toughie. And L.A. has Chris Lee, Andrei Lotkinoff, Brandon Prust, Brooks Lake, Shane Harper, T.J. Hensick, Sam Herr, Shane Walsh, Brett Sutter, Jamie Devane, and Philip Maillet. Brooks Lake, interesting note on that. Isn't he married to one of the Dancing with the Stars girls? What's her name? Julianne Hough.
Oh,
I think he's married. I'm pretty sure he's married to Julianne Hough. Which makes sense, him trying out for the LA Kings, since she's pretty much, her career keeps her out in LA quite a bit. So.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that makes a lot of sense there.
I hope Brandon Prust finds a home, because he's a good player. He would be a fan. Fans would like him.
Yeah, not many Bruins fans would like him. Maybe if he was wearing a Bruins uniform. Just going back to his time with Montreal, he's he's pretty much
he was a fan favorite with the Rangers.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure, and he was with Montreal, but he certainly wasn't with Boston when he was wearing a Montreal jersey. Minnesota Wild has Ryan Malone, Daniel Winnick. Montreal has Eric Jalina. New Jersey has Jimmy Hayes and Tim Erickson.
Yeah, that's interesting too. Did Boston boot Jimmy Hayes?
Yep, they bought him out. Yep.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Okay.
So he's free to sign anywhere else. And I guess with his brother playing for the Rangers,
yeah,
why not have Jimmy go to the same city if he can latch on with the Devils? Yep. And he has a pretty good chance because the Devils aren't a very good team, but Jimmy Hayes can be a decent player, but he just doesn't bring it every night. At least he didn't in Boston. So
I'm looking for a big year out of his brother Kevin. Yep. I know we don't want to digress, but I think Kevin Hayes is going to have a big year for the Rangers this year.
Yeah, he has definitely every opportunity to have a big year. All right, going back to the Islanders, Casey Bailey and Ben Holmstrom. The Rangers brought in Bobby Farnham and Andrew Desjardins. Ottawa brought in Chris Vandevelde, Brendan Woods, Kyle Flanagan, Charles David Bowden. Pittsburgh brought in Jay McClement. St. Louis has Mike McKee, Ty Loney. Vancouver has Ryan White, Scotty Upshaw. Washington has Yuri Yokopaka and Alex Chason. Winnipeg has Brody Sutter, Peter Stojakovic, Francis Beauvillier. That's a very French name. Beauvillier, yep. And Patrice Cormier. And Vegas has... Yeah. And Vegas has Bryce Gervais, Nikolai Bouillard, Scooter Vaughn, Kenny Morrison, and Stephen McCauley. And if I didn't mention your favorite team, that's because your favorite team did not sign or have any pro tryouts as of yet. And we'll update that list again next week as we head into the preseason. And I noticed the Bruins haven't signed anybody yet, so interesting. Well, they got a lot of young talent come up, so I'm not surprised.
Yes.
All right, let's go on to some of the news stories that have happened over the past week. The first one came out yesterday. The Calgary Flames will no longer pursue a new arena in the city, President Ken King said on Tuesday. That was yesterday, obviously. The owners group are pretty clear, pretty definite in their view on that, King told the Flames website. Building's very important. We've been working on it for a long time, but it doesn't look like we're going to get there. And I think it's time we stop pretending and we're a little honest with our fans and our city on that fact. Talk stalled when Calgary Mayor Nahid Nenshi, balked at the spending taxpayer money on a new building, Sportsnet said. We'll just go on and run our business and do what we can to figure out what the future will look like later, King said. He said the Flames are not actively seeking a new home. We're not talking about relocation. We're talking about upcoming training camp, King said. We're not shopping. Scotiabank Saddledome has been the Flames' home since it opened in 1983 and is the oldest arena that has not been renovated in use in the NHL. NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman has said in the past that the Flames do need a new arena. I think everybody knows the new arena is important on a whole host of levels for a whole host of reasons, he said on March 15th in Calgary. You've got to get from here to there, and since I tend to be an optimist by nature, I'm hoping that on both sides, not that there are sides, but the city and the Flames can figure this out. It's important. It's vitally important that it gets done. We'll just operate as long as we can and work as hard as we can, King said. We've made it work for 36 years. I guess we're going to have to make it work a little while longer. A lot of negativity coming out of those comments. I don't know.
I did not read a very optimistic, although he tried to say it was. I do not read that as being an optimistic feeling at all. It's the first thing. What you said is exactly how I felt when I read that.
Yeah. They sound a little pissed.
He does. He doesn't like it, and they may not be looking, but Quebec City. Hey, there's your team.
Yep.
Now I'm not gonna. But you listen. That we've talked about it on a previous podcast. It's common news around the NHL. That arena, the Saddledome, took a huge hit 2 or 3 years ago with the floods in Calgary.
Yep.
And I don't care what they say. They still have quirks and tweaks, things to straighten out. There's probably problems with mold or some sort of lasting communications things that break down, whatever, because it was a terrible damage done to that arena. So that being in the back of Ken King's mind and Brian Burke's mind, it's just not going to go away. That's not going to go away.
Right.
So they're going to work. They're going to work on it, and yeah, they may put things to rest for a year, maybe. But the longer this goes on, and they don't get a new arena, I just think the better the chances that one day they will move. That's what I think.
Yep. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I hate to see the Calgary Flames go because they've been there since, I was a kid, when they moved. I barely remember it when they moved from Atlanta to Calgary. So, yeah, to see the Flames go would be a terrible thing because I think that city can support it. I mean they practically sell out the place every game. So fan interest obviously is not an issue. Like it is in any Canadian city for they're so crazy about hockey there. So getting the fans in the seats is not the problem here in Calgary. The problem is you've got an owner that wants taxpayer money to pay for this new arena, and the city is saying, no, we can't afford it. Sorry.
Right.
So
it's a fiscal thing.
Yeah.
And,
so, what will happen? We don't know. Maybe the Flames owner decides to sell the team, and then the new owner bankrolls a new arena. Who knows what the future is there? But right now, it looks like everybody's kind of ticked off, and they're going to say, "All right, forget it. Let's just go play hockey for this year, and then we'll revisit this." But it's not going away, like you said.
No, it's not going away. It's not going to be something where, we'll put 5-10 years down the road. That's not. It's in their minds. What the damage that arena had is in their minds, along with probably, as the manager said, as the president Ken King said, a host of other things.
Yep.
So it's something that they will address, and I don't think, Wayne, we're looking at it to be a long-term thing for them to address. I think it's something that they'll probably address very, very soon, 2-3 years, with no concessions or no decisions being made by the management with the city of Calgary.
Yep.
I just think that's what they're going to do. They'll start looking for it, and it's a money thing too.
Yep.
If they can get into a new arena like the one that is built is sitting there empty in Quebec City, why not do it? And I'm not saying that's what they should do. I'm just saying this is a business thing, and it takes on a mind of its own very soon.
Yeah, and if Calgary, if the city of Calgary refuses to put up arena, now look, I'm of the camp where these owners are billionaires, right?
Yeah.
My personal opinion is these billionaires should be bankrolling their own arenas anyway.
Right.
And
right.
Especially, if I were billionaire own the hockey team, I would want to build the arena. That way I control the concessions, I control the parking, I control all the revenue streams that come with having an arena.
Right.
Other events that take place in that arena, I would get a cut as an owner.
Right.
I would be all for, taking care of the cost of a new arena myself, because I would have financial interest in everything that goes on in and around that area. The restaurants
Right.
that end up inside the arena, that are paying rent, and all of that stuff, all of those revenue streams are all part of the package. Right. Now, some of these owners, they don't want the real estate side of that business. They just want
right.
the city to build an arena, and then they pay rent towards that. It varies from owner to owner, the setup, but
that's right.
One way or another, the Calgary Flames are either going to get a new arena or they're going to get out of town. That's the only two solutions I see in this situation. Now, obviously, they've put it off. Right. They've kicked the can down the road, so to speak, a little bit. But they're going to catch up to it, and they're going to have to do something about it at some point, because the days are numbered for that arena. Just for I like the whole host of reasons they said. And one of those reasons is that nice, shiny new arena sitting right up the road in Edmonton. So.
Edmonton. And that's so true. And another thing he says is, it's the oldest arena in the NHL that hasn't been refurbished, or whatever his wording was. It's never been. I mean, he had to throw that in. It's the oldest arena that's never been renovated. Getting a dig in, on the mayor, you haven't even renovated the place. So I think we talked about it. Remember Brian Burke saying we won't talk about it. We'll just leave.
Yeah.
So I get the feeling that that the negotiations have not gone well for a long time. And when I say a long time, a year, maybe 2 years. They've been talking about it for a while. And it's like you say, they're kicking the can down the road, and they're going to run out of road.
Yep.
So,
Well, we'll see how that comes out. We'll be keeping an eye on it for sure. All right, let's turn our attention to the NHL Network preseason schedule. They announced it yesterday. What games they're going to be televising. They're going to have more than 20 preseason games, which will include the Vegas Golden Knights' first game against the Vancouver Canucks at Rogers Arena on Sunday. They'll air 4 Golden Knights preseason games. Talk about your shiny new object syndrome. 3 against Pacific Division opponents, the Canucks, the Kings on September 26th, and the Sharks on October 1st. In addition, the network will air Detroit Red Wings' first game at Little Caesars Arena. I want to see that. I saw the video where they showed the open house. What a spectacular-looking arena that is.
Oh, I'm telling you, it looked beautiful. I saw pictures of, I forget who it was, talking about the new arena.
Yep.
And they did some video shots around inside. It does look spectacular. Absolutely spectacular.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that game just to see the new arena. And, of course, they're going to be showing it off in between whistles, I'm sure. And then a quote out of this story. I think everybody knows the new arena is important on a whole host of levels for a whole host of – oh, wait, I'm in the wrong story. Wow. Woo. Anyway, so yeah, Red Wings first game at Little Caesar Arena against of course, the Boston Bruins on September 23rd. That's a 7 p.m. game. I definitely will be watching that. I'm going to be off that day. My son's got his referee clinic that day. So, the defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins will face their 2017 Eastern Conference first-round opponent, the Columbus Blue Jackets, in each team's final preseason game at PPG Paints Arena on September 30th. The NHL Network will also air the second game of the 2017 NHL China Games between the Kings and Canucks at Wukesong Arena in Beijing on September 23rd. But that game's going to be televised at 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time, which will be, well, it's a midnight start, 12:30 West Coast. So you West Coast people that stay up late will be able to watch that one. I don't know if I'm going to get up at 3:30 in the morning to watch a game, but and the 2017 Kraft Hockeyville Canada game between the Devils and the Senators in O'Leary, PEI on September 25th. That game will also be on NHL Network. I didn't say anything about the Kraft Hockeyville game in the U.S.
No, they haven't, but they are supposed to play that, aren't they?
That's usually on NHL Network too.
Yeah.
That game is in, I think it's another Pennsylvania city this year. I can't remember.
I believe that's right.
I can't remember what one, but I remember seeing when they announced who the winner was for the U.S. game. I'm like, really? Another Pennsylvania city?
Yeah.
You can't
Was
put
it Johnstown? I don't know.
That was last year. Johnstown was last
year.
year. This year, I think it's in the Johnstown's out near Pittsburgh, and this year it's I don't have it in front of me, but I know it's another Pennsylvania city. I think it's up near on the eastern side of the state this time.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be interesting to see on that one. But of course, some of the local networks too. I think Nesson's going to have a few Bruins games, and MSG will probably have a couple Rangers games.
Yeah.
So,
no, without a doubt.
I haven't checked the schedules of any of those networks, just the NHL. But anyway, it's good to see that they're starting to televise. Remember, it wasn't just a few years ago where it's almost impossible to find a preseason game televised.
Oh, that's true.
If you wanted to see preseason hockey, you had to go to the game.
That's true. Well, and we used to tune in on the computer and listen to it on the radio. You didn't have a television game. That's very true.
Yep, that's true. So they're starting to televise them more and more now, which is cool because not that I put a lot of stock in the preseason. I don't really care who wins the games in the preseason, but I want to see how individual players are going to do.
Right.
That's generally how that goes. So, and speaking of games that don't matter, the outcome. Let's talk about the prospect tournaments.
Yes.
We've started to see this thing over the last several years where NHL teams are grouping together to play these rookie tournaments. Now, these have been taking place. Now, as of the last recording that we had, none of these tournaments had taken place. But since we last recorded, almost every team has played and completed a rookie tournament or prospect tournament, whatever you want to call it, somewhere. And almost every team has had some. It would have been every team had the one in Florida not be canceled due to the hurricane. But anyway, let's start first and foremost. The 2017 Rookie Tournament is what it was called. That was a tournament between Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. Basically, it just played a round robin against each other. And Ottawa came out the winner in that one. But again, don't put any stock in the results of these tournaments. I watched a few games from around all these tournaments, and it's a total. Yeah, they're wearing the NHL jersey, but it's not NHL hockey. I can assure you.
Right.
The games. I don't know if you got a chance to see any of it, but the games are a lot slower, and a lot of times the games are taking place in regular arenas that you and I would play in every week to week. Not even arenas with thousands of seats, just small little 1,000-seat or less arenas where most of these tournaments were taking place.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them were streamed online, so you were none of these were televised, but you could find streams of them if you if you looked hard enough, and you
Right.
really had to look hard. I couldn't even get full results for all of these. I was hard pressed just to find out who the winner of each of these tournaments was. Never mind scores of each game and stats.
Right.
So,
You know, Wayne. Listen, speaking of really, and I'm not trying to digress, but one of these tournaments was in Estero, Florida, and they canceled it due to Hurricane Irma.
yep.
But I did actually tune in on the Weather Channel. My wife and I were glued to the TV for a while, and we
were
certainly
too.
our prayers go out to Florida for the damages and the situations they're facing right now. We certainly hope that things improve, and they improve in a timely way for people.
Yes.
But I know that there was an arena, and I'm trying to think of the name of it where they played it. It was actually a shelter for
Germain
residents
Arena.
in the
Yep.
Germain. That's it, Germain Arena.
Yeah, Germain Arena in Estero, Florida. That's where that tournament was supposed to be held, and that's actually a minor league arena. It's not a small arena like you would play, youth hockey in. This is
Right.
probably a 3,000 to 5,000 seat arena. I'm not sure exactly how many seats they have, but the Florida Everblades in the ECHL, that's their home arena.
Okay.
And they do a lot of stuff down there. There's a college tournament down there at the University of Maine. They didn't the last couple of years, but they used to go to that tournament every year, right around Christmas time. That arena would host 4 college teams, NCAA college teams, for a tournament, a holiday-like tournament down at that arena. But yeah, they were supposed to host Florida, Nashville, Washington, and Tampa Bay. Were supposed to go to that arena and play a tournament there, but they ended up canceling the tournament.
Right.
And then the owners of the arena ended up using it as a shelter for people that were evacuating their homes
Right.
due to the hurricane.
I don't know how that arena fared, whether there was any damage or any problems with things.
I don't believe there was any Calgary-like situations. There wasn't any flooding for the arena itself. Whether or not, the roof or the outside got damaged due to the winds or not is I don't know that. But
right.
But I think that arena came through pretty well in the storm.
Right.
Because Estero, Florida is up near Fort Myers, I think, or something like that, somewhere in that area. And they didn't get hit as hard as they expected to.
That's right. I watched actually yesterday a lady I think she was on the Weather Channel. She had a guy and a cameraman come into her house, and she was in St. Petersburg, and it had absolutely no damage whatsoever.
Yeah.
No water damage to her floors, nothing. There was trees down and stuff, but no damage. So I think it was selective where that hurricane really ripped things apart, and in other areas where it just didn't. People dodged the bullet,
Yep. Yeah. Well, the Florida Keys got hit hard, and where it came ashore on the mainland in Naples, that city got hit hard.
Yeah, Naples.
But
Naples got.
But the tournament or the storm weakened significantly after that, and really the only other places that got hit in terms of storm damage was really the surge on the eastern side of the state, from Miami all the way up through Jacksonville, or even Charleston, South Carolina. There was a lot of storm surge on the Atlantic coast that ended up causing a lot of damage. So anyway, yeah, we hope that everybody down there can get things back to normal in short order. I know there's a lot of power outage issues. There's actually a guy I used to play hockey with when I was a kid who's a lineman, and he lives in New Hampshire, I believe, and he's down there with a crew. They drove their lineman trucks. They brought in trucks from all over the country to help restore power and everything as quickly as possible down there. So he's down there until further notice, until they get things back in shape. But anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Estero, Florida tournament did get canceled due to the hurricane, but the Prospects Challenge in Buffalo went on. That was Boston, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and New Jersey, and Pittsburgh ended up being the champion out of that tournament. The 2017 Young Stars Classic which took place with Canadian teams, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Vancouver. Edmonton was the champion of that one. And of all the tournaments that I watched bits and pieces of, this one played in bigger arenas, junior mostly arenas, with 5,000, 7,000 seats, and there was a lot of people there. I mean, the people are in Canada; they're into their hockey, so.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So there was a lot of people watching those games. The Traverse City Prospects Tournament is the biggest tournament of all the prospect tournaments. This one has 8 teams, and this one's pretty much the one that started all of this.
Yeah.
Detroit, Carolina, Chicago, Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, Rangers, St. Louis, all went to Traverse City, Michigan to play in the prospect tournament there. And Chicago ended up being the champion in this one. Defending champion Carolina ended up taking 3rd this time around. Columbus was the number 2 team in that tournament. The 2017 Prospect Showcase featured Colorado, Anaheim, San Jose, and Arizona. And Anaheim came out on top in that tournament. Mm-hmm. And as far as the rest of the teams, if your team hasn't been named, they either didn't play at all or just played a little bit. Like, for example, LA and Vegas. LA and Vegas just played 2 games against each other. And actually, they're going to play 3 games. This 3rd game was supposed to be this afternoon at 4 o'clock Eastern. That game should be over by now. I don't know. I don't have results for it. But LA and I'm sorry, LA and Vegas are only playing 2 games. LA won the first game. Game 2 was supposed to be today at 4 o'clock. Everybody was talking about how that was Vegas's first ever game on the ice.
Oh, yeah.
It won't count for anything, but LA beat Vegas in game 1 of that one. So, also, the 2 of the teams that were supposed to be in Florida ended up going to Nashville and play a couple games against each other. Tampa Bay and Nashville just played a 3-game series against each other, and the Predators won that series 2-1. And the other 2 teams that were supposed to be in Florida, Washington and Florida. Florida actually, because of the fact that they were, where they're located, they just got out of town and didn't do anything with the rookies. And they'll go back in for regular training camp. Washington went back to Washington and just did a bunch of scrimmages amongst themselves. The Islanders and Philadelphia are the 2 other teams that we haven't mentioned yet. And those 2 teams are playing a single game tonight. As we speak, that game should have just started. That was a 7 o'clock start. And that one is being played at the phone booth in Philadelphia at Comcast Center. So the question I asked with all these is, since this is kind of just a disorganized group of tournaments, do you think the NHL should kind of standardize things and make sure every team plays some sort of rookie thing?
Wayne, the first thing that comes to mind for me is that gives the fans, particularly, where Traverse City is Michigan, right? These tournaments that are in Canada, these fans are, you think we go through withdrawal. I can imagine in Traverse City, Michigan, having to go through the whole summer and no hockey. And by standardizing it, my point is, you give the fans in those areas, as you say, not large arenas for the most part, something to look forward to. Yep. And so I think it would be a good thing from that standpoint. Yep. I think that's a very good question, actually. Yep.
Now, obviously, if they were to standardize it, it would end up being a topic in the CBA, so they probably can't do anything there. But that aside, I think to have these showcases and move them around, the Traverse City one, you're always going to have that because they've been doing it for years, and there's no way that that's going to go away.
Right.
But But
It's
here's the thing.
successful too.
Here's the thing. The reason that I take absolutely no stock in the results of these tournaments, and nor should anybody who's a fan of any of these teams, is the players that are there playing for their teams. It is not that team's total prospect pool. There's one major group of players that are missing from these tournaments, and those are your kids that are NCAA eligible. Now, the kids that have that graduated NCAA and their eligibility is used up at the end of last season, and then they're free to come to and play in these tournaments, and you see a few of those players. But the kids that are going back to college to finish out their college playing career, they're not eligible to play in these tournaments. If they play in these tournaments, they lose their eligibility. So
I see what you're saying.
So it's really only a showcase of prospects of players that are coming through the junior system, the Canadian junior system, and the European systems.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only players.
Very interesting point.
So, take no stock in the results of these tournaments. It really means absolutely nothing. It's just a way to get these rookies, to get the owners and the coaching staffs of all the respective teams a chance to see these players in game action, and see them in person. Give them one more chance, or give the players one more chance to impress the coaches.
Right.
But there's really nothing, because a lot of the teams that are showing up at these things, the team itself is being filled out at the bottom by camp invitees, I guess is the term that they use them, which are guys that probably don't have a snowball's chance in hell of making the American League roster, never mind the NHL roster.
Right.
They're just extra players that they bring along just to fill out the bottom of the rosters. So. So there's a lot of that. And, like, for example, the Bruins, both goalies that they brought to this tournament are camp invitees and that really have no shot at. So, whatever.
That's very good point, Wayne.
So yeah, there's really nothing riding on any of those tournaments. It's just a way to see the players one more time before the preseason starts, get them a little bit of game action. Because you're going to see all these players again in the preseason anyway before they get sent back to either American Hockey League or the junior team that they came from. So anyway, just some interesting hockey. All right. That's all I have for stories, unless you have anything you wanted to talk about before we get into the team previews. No.
I just I think it's commendable what as you said, Florida and some of these teams that are raising money for Irma victims and things like that. There's several stories on NHL.com if you go to check out the website. But
there's stuff the league is doing. There's stuff that individual teams are doing. Yeah,
it's notable, and I just wanted to make a real quick point of it.
Yep, and you'll find all those stories right on NHL.com. They're not hard to find. So, all right, well, let's move on to our team by team season previews. This week we picked up from where we left off. Last week we did the Pacific Division, all the teams. So if you're a fan of a Pacific Division team, you want to hear what we thought of your team, catch our show last week, and that was season 2, episode 4, and you'll hear all about those teams. This week, though, we're doing the Central Division, which includes the Blackhawks, the Avalanche, the Dallas Stars, the Wild, the Predators, the Blues, and the Jets. And like we did last week, we will go ahead and do them in alphabetical order. So that means we need to start off with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yes.
And this is a team that is in transition. Last season, they... or at the end of last season, they're basically in salary cap hell, I guess is what you want to call it.
Right.
Last year, they had yet another good year. They were 50-23-9 with 109 points. Finished first in their division, third overall in the league. But they had to get rid of a lot of players due to salary cap issues. Players gone: Artemi Panarin, Nicholas Halmerson, Marian Hossa, although Hossa's is due to injury, not so much. They've already announced he'll miss the entire season, so they're calling him gone. Marcus Kruger, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, Johnny Uduya, Scott Darling, and Brian Campbell. That is some major talent that has left this team.
No question about it, Wayne.
Now, new players coming in. You've got Brandon Saad, Patrick Sharp, Lance Boma, Tommy Wingles, Connor Murphy, and Jan Ruda. Goalies, Anton Forsberg and Jean-Francois Berube. Now, with the goalie situation with Scott Darling gone, the backup position is wide open. So Forsberg and Berube will be battling for that job. But if you were to just look at the players that I just mentioned alone, the players going out and the players coming in, that tells me right now Chicago's coming back down to earth this year.
Yeah, I think they will. There's a lot of pressure on this team too, Wayne, to perform. Hey, we still got our core together. We still, and I think that's going to weigh heavy on them. However, I think if they get to the second round, if it's not one round, I mean they were literally just destroyed by the Nashville Predators last year.
Yep.
If they they brought in some good players, Brandon Saad, sure things, guys they know. Brandon Saad, Patrick Sharp, they still have Artem Anisimov, who's a very valuable player. I'm hearing all kinds of good stuff about Alex DeBrincat, and he was the leading scorer in the OHL last year. They have him, so there's and you know how Quenneville is. He's a master at retooling and tweaking lines, just on the very same level as Alain Vigneault does the same thing. He pulls, you and I saw it, he pulled Artemi Panarin out of nothing, and all of a sudden here he is, one of the best players in the Central Division. So don't be surprised if this DeBrincat guy, who I'm hearing all kinds of good stuff about, maybe he's the next Artemi Panarin, the next bread man. The goalie situation is I don't think Chicago's strong in net. Maybe I'm wrong in that, Wayne. But I just don't think Corey Crawford is on the same level as say Carey Price or Jonathan Quick or the guys of that, Sergei Bobrovsky. You can name 4 or 5 guys that I think are better goalies.
He's. I wouldn't put him in the top 5 or so goalies, but he's still good enough. He's definitely going to be their clear number 1 starter.
Right.
And he's obviously not going to come back down to earth in terms of, he basically wasn't going to give Darling a chance to be a starter in Chicago. So, and that is why they ultimately moved Darling out, is they felt that Darling could be a starter, and obviously Carolina agrees. But Crawford does have times where he can be hot and cold, so that can be a concern for the Blackhawks. But yeah, just from the players that have come or left the team and the players coming in, they got some good players coming in, and they always seem to find a diamond in the rough in terms of prospects. So no doubt we're going to see some prospects come out of the woodwork that like a Panarin. He came out of nowhere. Don't get me wrong. Chicago's going to be a playoff team.
I think they will. Yeah,
no question. They're going to be a strong team because the core is still there. They still got Kane. They still got Taves. They still got Duncan Keith. They still got, a lot of the core players that they had during their 3 Stanley Cups are still there.
Yep.
And they're not going anywhere. So Chicago is still going to be a tough team to beat, but they're not going to be that runaway first place team that they have been the last several years, because because expansion and free agency and cap issues have really cut into the overall top to bottom depth of this team.
Right.
So that's
I agree.
where I stand with the Blackhawks. Now, in terms of prospects,
I said one thing, Chicago, and I turn it over to you. They are very much a mental when you go to play them on the ice, they can control you mentally. They can get under your skin. They get in your mind and in your psyche, and they can beat you. They can bring you to your knees. Chicago's had that ability for years now.
Yep.
And I just see it as they can still do that. So because these guys all won 3 Stanley Cups for the most part, the core. And so that can happen. And it can also happen in the regular season where they get on a roll and they win. They go 15 games without a loss or points in 15 games. I could see it happening. So I'm not ready to throw the towel in yet on Chicago. I think, as you said, they're going to be a playoff team, and it's going to be interesting. Get to November, Thanksgiving, and see where they are.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. All right. In terms of prospects, because we've been doing this for the Pacific Division, we're talking about each team's prospects and what they expect to play. Looking at my hockey news here, they have talking about the top 10 prospects that they have. They have Alex DeBrincat, which you mentioned earlier. They're expecting him to make the team this year, and he'll fill one of those spots left vacant by their people that have left. Gustav Forsling, defenseman, is expected to make the team this year. And Anton Forsberg, goaltender, obviously with the departure of Scott Darling, that backup role is available, and they're actually expecting Forsberg to make the team this year. So they're saying at this point Berube will be in the minor leagues. That's it for prospects that Chicago has that are expected to make the team. Now, who knows? Somebody might surprise out of training camp. Someone usually does. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the Colorado Avalanche. Talk about the other end of the spectrum. Colorado Avalanche last year finished 22, 56, and 4 with a dismal 48 points, finishing in dead last in the division and dead last in the league last year. Now you want to say that there's only one way to go but up, but
right.
Quite frankly, they could actually go down some more because they finished 30th in the league last year. They could actually finish 31st this year.
Yeah,
technically,
yeah, it could happen. It could happen.
But as far as players coming and going, players that have left: Francois Beauchemin, Mikhail Grigorenko, Calvin Pickard, Patrick Weircock, and Rene Bourque all have left. Coming in, they've got Colin Wilson, Nail Yakupov, Andrei Mironov, and David Warsofsky. Also Jonathan Bernier in net. I would expect that Bernier is going to challenge Varlamov for the starting job. Going back to, I remember when Jonathan Bernier was playing for the Lewiston Maniacs, and he was being projected to be not a franchise goalie, but a definite number one starting goalie in the NHL. And due to injury issues and other stuff, getting caught behind, because he was in the LA Kings system for a while, getting caught behind Jonathan Quick in the depth chart. He just has never emerged as a clear-cut number one. I think he has a pretty good shot of becoming that here in Colorado. And the other player, Nail Yakupov, is kind of an interesting sign.
That is.
And I know he was signed for fairly cheap too, so if Yakupov is going to make an impact in this league at all, obviously this is probably his last shot at doing so. I mean,
Right.
if you can't make an impact with the worst team in the league, then you're not going to make an impact at all.
Right. Right.
I guess
I,
is where he stands. But you know, this is definitely going to be another weak year for Colorado as they continue to try to rebuild that team. I don't know if they're going to get much better than they were last year. 48 points is pretty low. You know, the bar is set pretty
yeah.
low there. It doesn't seem to be too hard to beat, but
Their defense, Wayne. Their
yeah.
defense is just not. It's not good, and I don't see anybody they're bringing in that's going to really pick them up there.
No,
Um,
the two players on D that they brought in, Mironov and Warsofsky, neither one's projected to crack the top 6. So
that's right. That's right. That's a very
maybe
good point.
Mironov.
They may win games by outscoring opponents,
Yep.
or Bernier, if he takes over the starting role, stands on his head, and but the defense has to be fixed here. Look at them on paper with the people like Nathan McKinnon, Matt Duchene, Gabriel Landeskog, Nail Yakupov if he plays. They have some good offensive threats.
Yep.
But and confidence, I'm sure, too, factors into it.
Yep. Well, and the other major story too with Colorado is the Matt Duchene situation, which is just weird to me. It's clear they've been shopping him around, and there's constant trade rumors with him, and nothing is happening, and yet he remains. I mean, don't you think it would kind of suck to be a guy like him, where you're showing up at camp to a team that basically doesn't want you, and then are trying to get rid of you, and they haven't found a way to do so yet. A lot of people say it's only because the asking price is too high, what Sakic wants in return, but that story's until that whole situation is resolved, I don't think Colorado is going to be able to move forward on that.
I agree.
But yeah, this is a team that's just a mess, and they needed to blow it up, and they really didn't. They made a few subtle changes here and there, but for the most part, the team that you're getting this year in Denver is going to be the same team as you had last year, which doesn't bode well for the future of this team, at least in the near future, anyway.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next team, and the next team I have is Dallas. Yeah. Last year, 34, 37, and 11, a very disappointing 79 points after having 109 points the year before. Injuries were a major, major issue with Dallas last year, and it's a big part of the reason why they had such a they finished 30 points off of the year before in the standings. So obviously missed the playoffs, and it's a team that we thought was going to be good last year, but just didn't ultimately pan out. A lot of it was, they got behind the 8 ball with all the injuries, and they just kept getting in injury after injury after. I mean, they probably missed more man games to injury than any other team in the league by probably a considerable margin. Yeah.
Yep.
But as far as players coming and going, they had players leaving were Patrick Sharp, Cody Aiken, Yuri Hudler, Alex Hemsky, and Antti Niemi. Players coming in were Martin Hansel, Alex Radulov, Brian Flynn, Tyler Pitlick, Mark Mathot. Also, Ben Bishop and Mike McKenna were added to the team's goaltenders. I think the moves that Dallas made were pretty good this year. I agree. You put Radulov on a line with Sagan and Jamie Benn. It's going to be a pretty damn good line.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say.
I agree with you. I don't know. It remains to be seen for me. I could be eating my words when we talk about predicted finish. I'll tell you, but This team defensively, they brought in Mark Mathot. That was a good move.
Yep.
But they're not. They gotta prove. They gotta show. They gotta bring it. Klingsberg, Mathot, Hamhuis, Lindell. You got about 4 or 5 guys, but they got to bring it. If they're going to be the number 1 team in this division, in the Central Division, they're going to have to be a good defensive team.
Yep.
And I believe that this division will send 5 teams to the playoffs. So they're going to have to really bring it. They're going to have to show defensively that they can, because if Ben Bishop's going to stand on his head every night, eventually that's going to catch up to them.
Yeah, and the big if with Bishop is, can he stay healthy?
Right.
Because he's been rather injury prone the last few years. But no, I really like Dallas for this year. I really think they're going to do pretty well. I wouldn't be surprised if they won the division.
Mm-hmm.
I think that team is just that good. They've got the offensive touch for sure. They got plenty of offense.
Powerful offensive team.
Yep. And they have been for the last several teams. But, yeah, like you said, can they keep the puck out of their own net? Bringing in Bishop will help with that. Bringing in, some of the defensemen. Klingberg is obviously going to be a year older and a year better. Bringing in Mark Mathot. He's a good shutdown guy.
Yep.
That's a good move for them. I think Dallas improved themselves with the moves they made this season or this offseason.
Right.
All right, let's talk prospects. As far as the hockey news is concerned, there is one player that they think is going to make the roster this year, and that's Julius Honka, a defenseman. Yep. And I think Hockey News has him slated as the number 6 guy. Yes.
Yes, they do.
Number 6 guy. So they think he's going to crack the top 6 this year. They have several other players that are in their system, but that Honka is the only one that they think is going to make the team.
And then, of course, you got dangling out there CSKA Moscow, Valery Nishushkin.
As he said he wanted to play for Dallas if he comes over? That's right. Dallas owns his rights, yeah.
Yeah, they own.
And his contract runs through this season, so Dallas is actually fully expecting that he'll be back with the team
next year.
Yep. So that'll be interesting. All right. Minnesota.
Yep.
I got to pull them up. Here we go. Last year they finished 49-25-8 with 106 points. Obviously made the playoffs. Had some good years out of some veterans. Eric Stahl had a kind of a break. I don't know if you want to call it breakout. A comeback year, I guess is what you want to call it.
He sure did. Yeah. 28 goals.
Yep, 28 goals last year, 65 points, and he only had, it was in the 30s. I don't have it in front of me, but he was only in the 30s the year before that. So he had a bit of a comeback year. But Minnesota is a very good team. I think they're going to continue to make the playoffs here for the next couple of seasons. As far as players coming in and going out, players leaving: Martin Hansel, Jason Pominville, Marco Scandella, Eric Holla, Alex Took, Darcy Kemper, Jordan Schroeder, and Tyler Gravik all left the team. Players coming in: Marcus Foligno, Eric Raw, Cal O'Reilly, Tyler Ennis, Kyle Quincy, Ryan Murphy, and Alex Grant, and Nicholas Vedberg back in net. I think for the overall most part, I think you got a wash here with the players that are coming and going.
Right.
So I don't see Minnesota getting either better or worse based on the players that came and went. So that would lead me to believe that Minnesota fans can expect a very similar season to what they had last year. somewhere in that neighborhood, 100 to 105 points.
Right.
Is probably a reasonable expectation for them.
Hey, listen, Wayne. When I sit here and consider Minnesota, I look at them a different light than I do Dallas, and you're gonna probably jump all over me, but I just think Minnesota can bring it defensively. Ryan Sutter, Jared Spurgeon, Matt Dumba, Jonas Brodin, they have some good defensemen on that team. They were the 7th best team defensively in the NHL last year. So I think that's plays in there.
I think they're capable even better than that defensively.
Oh yeah.
They're like the opposite of Dallas, really.
Yep. They really are. They're a good defense, a solid defensive team.
Yep.
And up through March, they were one of the best, if not the best team in the West. They had more points than anybody. And I remember they were playing very lights-out hockey there for a while. Devin Dubnyk was playing awesome.
Yep, they were.
So if they get going on that tear again with Boudreau pulling the strings, watch out. I think Minnesota could do very, very well in the Central.
Yep.
And they could finish first. It wouldn't surprise me.
No, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. They're definitely going to be one of the contenders, along with Dallas and Chicago and Nashville. I think that those 4 teams are going to be just duking it out for that top spot.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, in terms of prospects, Joel Eriksson Ek.
Yep.
Is expected to make the team out of camp this year. Mike Riley, defenseman, they're expecting him to make the team. And Gustav Olofsson is the other player that Minnesota, or the Hockey News anyway, deems worthy of a roster spot this season. Everybody else is going to be next season or the season after that. So,
right.
All right, the next team, Nashville.
Smashville.
They had a great season last year. They finished 41, 29, and 12 with 94 points in the regular season, which isn't really all that spectacular. But in the playoffs, they got white hot, and they ran it all the way to the Stanley Cup final. Ended up being 2 wins away from Stanley Cup championship.
Yep.
So Nashville had a great year last year.
They did. They were the 16th team to get in the playoffs. They just got hot in the playoffs. And they walloped Chicago, and that gave them, it was like putting a crown on their head and watching them go. Because they really took off.
Yep. So in terms of players coming and going, they really only lost 2 players. James Neal, he was, of course, went to Vegas in the expansion draft, and Colin Wilson. Players coming in, Scott Hartnell, Nick Bonino, Alexei Yamelin, and Anders Lindback, goaltender.
Yeah.
If it is possible going to the Stanley Cup final, I think the Predators actually got better based on the players that they brought in.
I agree. It's safe to say that not much change. What they saw last year, they're going to see again this year.
Now, of course, they also lost Mike Fisher. He announced his retirement, so obviously Nashville, or this book was probably printed before he announced his retirement, because he should be on the no longer with them list. But you got Hartnell, Bonino. Those are 2, grit and grind type players. Alexei Yamelin shores up the defense a little bit. Anders Lindback will be the backup goalie to Pekka Rinne. And, well, I don't know. Will they play Saros?
Yeah, they said the Jose Saros may win that backup position. That's going to be an interesting, but stranger things. I watched Saros play, though. I think he played in the playoffs too.
Yeah. He came in a few mop-up roles. When Pekka Rinne kind of went cold there in the final.
Right.
He came in for a couple of mop-up games where the game was decided and they yanked Rinne out. Okay, in terms of prospects for the Predators, Vladislav Kamenev, a left winger, is expected to make the team this year, and that's it.
Yeah. They got Dante Fabro, but he's at Boston University, and they'll be waiting on him.
Yep.
Also, doesn't maybe it's not Nashville. Jordan Greenway, he might be with Minnesota now that I think about it.
Oh, okay.
That's a guy that with his size and his skills, he's got great hands. He might be a force. But I think I'm speaking out of turn. I think Minnesota has him coming when he gets out of Boston University. But anyways.
All right. Well, let's move on to St. Louis. We're rolling through these tonight.
We're rolling through them.
All right. St. Louis finished last season 46-29-7 with 99 overall points, and they made the playoffs last year. They're actually down from the previous 4 seasons where they had over 100 points each season. So it is the worst of their last 5 seasons for St. Louis. And that was to be expected. They lost David Backes the year before, and I believe they were suffering for some injury issues as well. As far as players coming and going, the players leaving: David Perron, Yuri Laterra, Ryan Reeves, and Nail Yakupov. And players coming in: Braden Shen, Bo Bennett, Chris Thornburn, and then they're waiting to sign 1 or 2 more. They have yet to sign.
Right.
But I don't know. I think the team that they got coming in is going to be slightly better. Braden Shen is going to be a nice addition for them.
Yeah. Very good.
I think St. Louis is going to be one of those teams that's going to be right on the bubble between making the playoffs and not. That one could go either way with them.
I agree. I actually have them finishing 5th, but making the playoffs as the 5th team.
You got them right on the bubble then. Yep.
Yep. But I don't see them as I did last year in the same light, where I saw St. Louis as really one of the best teams. You're looking at a team that's made the playoffs 6 years in a row now.
Yep.
But I think they've declined some. But it'll be interesting to see what Mike Yeo does. Jake Allen is now their out-and-out starter, and he's backed up by Carter Hutton. And we'll see what happens and see how that goes. As far as that being a good goalie tandem.
Yep. We'll see if Allen's great year that he had last year, it was a fluke or it's something that they can expect every year.
Right. That's right.
All right. In terms of prospects, Ivan Barbashev.
Yep.
And Oscar Sundquist.
Yep.
Jordan Schmaltz,
the defenseman,
are all supposed to make the team this year.
Yeah. Now looking at these guys too, Barbashev, Schmaltz, Vince Dunn, they're all out of the Chicago Wolves in the AHL.
Yep.
But that team is now the affiliate for the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I don't know what St. Louis is going to do. I guess they're waiting on another team.
Yeah, there's only 30 American League teams and there's 31 NHL teams, so 2 teams are going to have to share.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Until the 31st NHL or AHL team comes along. But yeah, ultimately I see St. Louis as a team that's going to be bouncing on either side of the playoff line.
Right. I hear you.
And if 5 teams do go from that division, St. Louis will be one of them.
I think so. Unless the next team we talk about, I don't know. I'll wait till we get going.
All right, Winnipeg is the next team that we need to talk about.
Yep.
All right, last year they finished 40, 35, and 7, a total of 87 points, missed the playoffs. This is a team, they're playing in one of the smallest arenas in the NHL.
Right.
Attendance-wise, but they're selling out every game, so go figure.
And those fans love them.
They do. Yep, they certainly do. But it's a team that has been struggling over the past several years of getting to the next level. When they first moved from Atlanta to Winnipeg, I mean, these guys were horrible. The Jets were horrible.
Yeah.
One of the worst teams in the league.
Yep.
Since then, you're seeing the slow step up, getting better, and better. They peaked a couple of years ago. Was it last year or the year before where they actually made the playoffs?
Yeah, it's 2 years ago.
Yeah. Last year they took a bit of a step back from that. So now I'm not sure that was all entirely their fault because they were in that horrible division with all those talented other teams.
Right.
They just didn't have that enough talent to compete. But I think this year you're going to continue to see, the baby steps that they're taking.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
here's the thing. I see this team. You remember last year, Wayne? We talked about Columbus and how they look good on paper.
Yep.
And confidence was what was needed. And we both said, Columbus could really do it, and they did. I see Winnipeg as the Columbus of the Western Conference.
Makes sense.
They got a great defense. They really do. They've got 4 or 5 guys right off the top that could play on any team as starting defensemen. But if you look at them and their offense, the initial season of Line A was tremendous. Mark Scheifele had a great year. Nikolai Ehlers, another great player. If you look, Brian Little, Blake Wheeler, go down their line. They got some great players on that team. Kyle Connor. I'm telling you, if they get off and get going good, this team could finish and win and make it to the playoffs. I really believe it. The Jets have the capability, but confidence is what they need.
Yep. And as much as we say St. Louis is probably on the positive side of that bubble line, I think Winnipeg's going to be nipping at their heels all season. I think Winnipeg's going to be just below the playoff line and occasionally will bounce up into the playoffs and bounce somebody out. But I think at the end of the season, ultimately, Winnipeg will still be on the outside looking in. But,
vastly improved, though.
They should be improved over last year. Now, as far as players that are coming and going, I don't think we've talked about them yet. Andre Pavlik, Paul Posma, and Otis Thornburn are all out. And in, we have Michael Scarbosa. I'm getting that name wrong. Dmitry Kulikov and Steve Mason. So I don't know what your opinion is on whether Mason's going to be better than Pavlik. I would like to say yes, but
yeah, I think Connor Hellebuck, he did well last year, and then he fizzled, and then he did well. So Steve Mason's there. I think he's going to make Connor Hellebuck earn it.
Yeah,
and I think that's not as bad a goaltending situation as others in this division, in my opinion. But we'll see. Steve Mason is a good goalie. I watched him in Philadelphia. I watched him in Columbus, and he can win games for you. He himself. So it remains to be seen how they do there in the goaltending situation. But
yeah, for sure. Because you just never know. All right, let's take a look at prospects for the Jets. And let's see, Kyle Connor is expected to make the team this year, and I'm actually excited about him. From what I've heard, he's a fun player to watch.
yeah,
and he's actually the only one out of the Jets.
Manitoba moves.
Yeah.
Of course, he led the nation in scoring 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
With Michigan. Yep.
So I don't have his draft situation. I was trying to find it there. Yeah, Kyle Connor drafted 17th overall in the 15 draft. So
right.
Scored 44 points in 52 games with Manitoba last year in the American Hockey League. So I think he's ready to go. We'll put it that way. If there's going to be a year that he's going to make the NHL team, I think this is it. So should be interesting to see. All right. Well, do you have anything else you want to add to these?
I just give you my projected finish. I don't know if you're going to agree with it, Wayne.
All right.
This week, I think there's here's how I got it. Number 1, the Nashville Predators. And then number 2, Chicago. And that's probably, but I picked Chicago. 3, Minnesota. 4, Dallas. 5, St. Louis. 6, Winnipeg. And 7, Colorado. That's how I have it. I could see Winnipeg surprising. I can see Dallas jumping up there and flipping with Chicago to second place. It's going to be interesting.
All right.
But that's how I picked it.
Here's how I'm going to nail it in. I'm going to commit here. I don't have it written down or anything. I'm just going to do it off the top of my head, just on gut feel. But I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say Dallas is going to take the division.
Yeah.
And that's a big if, whether or not Bishop stays healthy.
Right.
Followed by Nashville, then Chicago,
Yep.
then Minnesota, then St. Louis. And they will all make the playoffs. And that leaves Winnipeg and then Colorado as the 2 teams on the outside looking in.
I can see it going that way, Wayne.
Yep.
That's a good one. Remains to be seen. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So let's now head into the part of the show that we call the Minor League Hockey Minute. And actually, we've been saying all along the KHL is the only league playing right now. And if you were to look at HockeyDB's morning report, or that's what it's called, it's at hockeydb.com/scoreboard, that basically is a one-page roundup of all the past 24 hours action around the hockey world. And you will see several leagues have now begun playing games so far this season.
Wow.
You're starting to see signings at the lower level pro leagues. I'm seeing a list of, just today alone, I've seen a list of ECHL, Southern Pro Hockey League, American Hockey League signings. So you've seen a whole bunch of these signings going on already. Oh, and look, Minnesota today announced the retirement of center Ryan Carter. Just looking at the morning report for today. Nashville announced the retirement of forward Vernon Fiddler. And the Pittsburgh Penguins' Alex Diorio was signed for Pittsburgh to an entry-level contract. Yesterday, you see some AHL signings, ECHL. Buffalo has already sent down several players. Buffalo has signed Arvin Atwal, Colin Blackwell, Justin Danforth, Anthony Florentino, Alex Kyle, and Daniel Muzito Begenda to Rochester, the American Hockey League. And they released Jake McGrath, Carl Neal, and Clint Windsor. Winnipeg released Tyler Bolin, Richard Hoog, Cody McDonald, Christian Reichel, Matthew Sevigny, Antoine Crate-Belzile, and Cole Keller from their ATOs. So those are all ATOs that they got rid of.
Wow.
So a lot of transactions anyway. But getting back to the minor league hockey minute, there's several leagues that have already started up. The Ontario Junior Hockey League, and that's not the OHL. This is a lower tier junior hockey league. They've started up. Central Canadian Hockey League, British Columbia Hockey League. These are all lower level junior leagues that have started up. The Austrian League is now 2 games into their season. British Elite Hockey Leagues started. The Deutsche Hockey League, which is in Germany. The Eastern Hockey League, which is a lower level junior league here in the U.S. The Czech League, the Swiss League, and the Alps Hockey League have all started games. Oh, the Finnish League they're all underway.
Wow.
So they've all played between 1 and 3 games, all those other leagues. But the KHL has played as many as 10 games already.
Yeah.
And I didn't look at the standings for the KHL, but according to this morning report, they're showing St. Petersburg with a 10-0-0 record.
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
And CSKA has got a 9-1 record.
Yep.
So definitely predictable. But your minor league hockey minute does have something to do with the KHL, so I'll let you go.
Okay, I will go and Wayne, I saw yours, so I'm anxious to hear it. But mine deals again with the team Red Star, the Red Star team in Kunlun. Apparently, over in China, the building that they and it escapes me the name of it, but it's in Beijing. The building where they play the hockey is, I think, an 19,000 seat arena. But they have festivities going on at the beginning of the season. And so every year they cannot play for the first 6 or 7 games of the year. So this year
was there last year that's what has taken place. Is that the same this year?
That happened again. That's correct. It happened again.
So what's the reason for that?
The article never really centered on why that is, but apparently something's going on in Beijing where they're using that arena at the start of the KHL season. And so they have to play. They played 7 games on the road. They go on a road trip, a long road trip, and they played 7 games and then came back home.
Kind of like the way Carolina does.
Yeah.
Every year.
Game that they played, the first home game, wasn't even in Beijing. It was in Shanghai. So the article that I read was entitled Filstrom Zapolsky Defeat Red Star, Jokerit 4, Kunlun 1. Saturday's only game saw KHL action come to China for the first time this season, but Kunlun Red Star was unable to celebrate its homecoming with a victory. Admittedly, the Beijing team didn't get all the way home after 7 road games to begin the campaign. Just like last season, the fall brings other demands on Red Star's home in the Chinese capital, and this game was actually played in Shanghai. But buoyed by Kunlun's bright start to the 2017-18 campaign, spectator numbers and especially spectator noise was up on what we saw in the capital megacity last year, offering more evidence that this game is making progress in the People's Republic. On the ice, though, Kunlun was undone by a combination of Ryan Zapolsky's goaltending and 2 goals from Antti Filstrom. Larosky kept Jokerit in the game when Red Star was in the ascending early on, locking up the game until his team grabbed the lead midway through the encounter. That opening goal came on the power play, which Nicholas Jensen found some space in the deep slot and put a wrister into the top corner. Then Marco Antilla made it 2-0 early on in the third. Pavel Vorobes, and I hope I said that right, first ever career goal in the KHL, gave the Red Star team hope. But Philstrom extinguished that with a deflected shot from a tight angle to make it 3-1, and also scored an empty netter to seal the deal for Jokerit. So Jokerit Helsinki, they defeated Kunlun, and Kunlun seems to be coming back down to earth too. They're 5-4 the last I saw, so they're dropping in the standings, but doing better than they were last year.
Well, good. You know, have you noticed, and scrolling through the KHL website, and I don't mean to change the subject, but
Nope, don't worry.
That we're unable to view videos?
Yeah, I've noticed that this year.
They've put the territorial, kind of like Canada does. It says, unfortunately, the video is not available in your country.
Yeah.
You know, if you're trying to sell your game, I don't know why they put these geographic restrictions on this content. If you're trying to sell the game to an audience, even if it's a worldwide audience, why would you restrict highlight packages?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just irks me.
And there's really no video now that's available to us.
No.
I can't find any.
No.
So.
Now I could fire up my. I'm wondering if I could fire up my my VPN, if I can VPN into Russia and get those videos. I haven't tried that yet, but I'm not going to bother trying. It's just aggravating. The NHL does it. TSN in Canada, we can't ever get their videos.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody who's listening to us it has anything to do with TSN. I'm like, come on, you're trying to spread your message, around the world. Why are you locking up this stuff?
Yeah.
We're fans. We want to see this.
Yeah. That's good.
We want to see this stuff. Come on.
That's right.
I know it all has to do with advertising. By restricting it, the advertisers are not getting views that, it's a whole thing with advertising. I know what it is, but it's just frustrating.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, good thing with the Chinese team that they're growing their game, and of course having 2 NHL games there this fall is gonna be even better.
Now, hey Wayne, is that going to be at the arena?
I believe so.
Where Kunlun plays, yeah, and that place does seat a lot of people.
Yep.
I think we reported on it last year.
That's like 18,000 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. All right. Well, my story is also out of the KHL, and it's about a former NHL player, Jack Skilly.
Yeah.
Signed with the KHL's Dynamo Minsk this year after playing several years in the NHL. And he made his debut. It doesn't say. I have it here. Oh, September 11th. He made his debut with Dynamo Minsk and got a goal and 2 assists in his first KHL game in a 3-1 win against Traktor. And that was their first home win of the year. Now, about Jack Skilly, I think it's Skilly is the way you say it. Mm-hmm. He was a first-round draft pick, 7th overall in the 2005 NHL draft. So he is a fairly old player. He's 30 years old now. Right winger, shoots right. He has a total of 368 games of NHL experience. Last year he played for the Canucks, 55 games, 9 points, 12 penalty minutes, and then basically been bouncing around the league. He's also played for the Colorado Avalanche, Columbus Blue Jackets, Florida Panthers, Chicago Blackhawks, and that's it. He played for the University of Wisconsin back in his college days. He's got some time in the AHL. He played for the U.S. National Development Program under-18 team before he went to the University of Wisconsin. So he's been bouncing around. He's got 368 games in the NHL experience is definitely nothing to sneeze at. 84 career points, 43 goals, 41 assists in the NHL, 118 penalty minutes. So more of a role player at the NHL level. But obviously he decided that he's probably not going to, especially with his advanced age, probably was not going to make an NHL roster this year, so he decided to sign in the KHL. And look how first game he scores 3 points. So
yeah, that's great news.
Yep. So great news for a former NHLer.
Yeah.
I like to, anytime I run across a former NHLer doing something in that league, I like to highlight it for sure to show that those guys can still play. Now, in terms of the KHL, take a look at the statistical leaders. Nigel Dawes is still leading the KHL in points. He's got 16 points in 8 games, 12 goals. Kovalchuk is second. Nikita Gusev is third. Of course, it's very tight. Gusev has 14, Kovalchuk 15 points. Lyndon Vey has 13 points in only 8 games. Pavel Datsyuk. Yeah, I don't know. Who's that guy?
Yeah. I've never heard of him before.
Who's Pavel Datsyuk? He's got 13 points to start off the year. Sergei Mozyakin is off to another strong start, 12 points in 10 games. So those are your scoring leaders in the KHL. All right. Let's move on to our picks of the week.
Yes, sir.
And you have a good one. Can't remember off the top of my head what it was, so I'm just going to let you go ahead with it.
You want me to go? Okay,
yep.
I'll get this one through. Listen, when my wife I taught her about hockey, and over the years since we've been married, and she is now probably a bigger fan than I am. We
need to have her on the show sometime. You know that.
Yeah, we should have her on, and especially for this particular pick of the week, because when she first started watching hockey, she didn't like Scott Hartnell. She just didn't. He's been known to be a dirty player.
He's the type of player that can rub people the wrong way. I could see that. Yeah.
He can definitely get under your skin.
Yep.
But as the years have gone by and we've watched him and we've learned that she didn't like his long hair either. But he's changed. He's really, but he's become older, more mature maybe. But I've always had, I've had a healthy respect for the Flyers and their teams. If you watch, they're a good team. But we didn't really follow him very much when he was in Nashville. But he spent his first 6 years in Nashville. Then he goes to Philadelphia and Columbus, et cetera, et cetera. The bottom line is he is now back in Nashville for a season. He signed a 1-year contract.
Yep.
And he left Columbus, is going back to Nashville where he started. And there happens to be a gentleman there by the name of Craig Baugh, who is the resident locker room attendant, I guess, for the Nashville Predators.
Yep.
And he has been in that position for quite some time. As a matter of fact, he was in that position when Scott Hartnell originally played for the Predators.
Yep.
And so here is this guy who has been with the team for years. And all of a sudden, the mascot has got the camera running, and one of the players from the Predators organization comes up and says, "Hey, come on over here. I want you to see somebody who just came in the locker room today." Well, Craig Baugh apparently developed quite a friendship and relationship with Scott Hartnell. If you watch the video, he sees him for the first time in the Predators' weight room for years. And the reuniting of those two is really something. I encourage you, go on to NHL.com and watch this video. But this one actually did have a quick story with it. and I wanted to read it for you. But I encourage everyone to go on NHL.com, read this, watch the video. It's really touching. But the title of the article is Scott Hartnell has big bear hug for an old friend in Nashville. Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers got a hug. Scott Hartnell's return to the Nashville Predators after 10 seasons away turned emotional when he finally saw Craig Baugh, the man they call partner, a longtime locker room attendant for the team. In a video captured by Nash, the Predators' mascot, Hartnell, who signed a one-year deal to return to Nashville, where he spent his first 6 NHL seasons, is pointed out to Baugh while working in the weight room. Baugh couldn't believe it. Hartnell quickly went, and he rushes over to the edge to hug his buddy. Quickly went to the door with an extra large bear hug and an emotional bro for his old friend. Welcome home, buddy, Baugh said during the emotional embrace. It was Hartnell back in 2012 while visiting Nashville with the Flyers who singled out Baugh, saying, "He just puts a big smile on your face." For Baugh, the feeling, as the saying goes, is mutual. So that was it. I like Scott Hartnell's top guy in my books. I've watched several stories on him, and so I feel like I know a little bit about him to be able to tell you about him. But this is a touching thing. It takes 50 seconds, but it's worth your time, and you can learn a little bit about the guy as well.
Yeah, it's a very short video. I saw the video, and it was a very nice moment for them. And these locker room attendant guys, these are the guys that make the players' life a little bit easier. You know, they're on the road, they're traveling all over the place. These locker room attendants, and they tend to stick around for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Every team's got one of these guys, and they get close to the players. They have good relationships with them, and I've often heard that Scott Hartnell off the ice or on a specific team is a very great guy. Great personality, funny. You name it. As much as we like to hate him, as I hated him when he was with the Flyers when they were playing against the Bruins. Because he gets under your skin, that much. But usually off the ice, those kind of guys are usually pretty good guys. And yeah, I did see the video, and it's a nice moment to see those two guys get reunited.
Yeah.
Like they're old friends that hadn't seen each other in a long time.
It was good.
So
thank you, Wayne.
I'm looking for an article. I'm actually on the Boston Red Sox website looking for an article that goes with my pick of the week, and I'm not finding it right off the top. I wanted to find out how much they raised. But anyway, my pick of the week is about a story where the Panthers, the Red Sox, the Tampa Bay actually, they're not the Devil Rays anymore. The Tampa Bay Rays and the Boston Bruins. So 2 baseball teams, 2 hockey teams, all partnered together to help Hurricane Irma, or help raise money for Hurricane Irma relief. The Red Sox, the Rays, the Bruins, and the Panthers have partnered to raise funds for Florida as Hurricane Irma closes in on the region. This article was written just before the hurricane hit. Donations will be collected at all Fenway Park gates tomorrow, Sunday, September 10th, before and during the 1:35 p.m. game against the Rays. Helping with the collection will be players from the Red Sox, Rays, Bruins, and Panthers. The Panthers were moved to the Boston area to wait out the hurricane near their American Hockey League affiliate. Donations will support the Red Cross relief efforts that may be needed in the Florida area. They definitely did need those donations. Florida is the home of the Red Sox spring training facility, JetBlue Park, which is actually in Fort Myers, one of the cities hit hard. And the Tampa Bay Rays also are in that city for their spring training facility. And their regular season ballpark, Charlotte Sports Park and Tropicana Field, and the Florida Panthers Arena, the BB&T Center, which is in Sunrise, Florida. But anyway, those 4 teams got together at Fenway, and there's pictures. I saw pictures tweeted out, and I
don't have them right in front of me, but it showed the whole line. They basically all the players of these 4 teams were outside. I think it's Yawkey Way. There's a street that's right outside of Fenway Park. I don't. You ever been a game there?
I've never been to Fenway
No.
Park. Oh
Okay.
my goodness, would I love to go one day.
Well, I've been. I've been to many games. It's been a long time since I've been there, but one of the streets right outside the entrance of Fenway Park is closed off to vehicular traffic before and after games. It's pedestrian only, and of course all the food vendors set up, and it basically becomes part of the ballpark. Really, is what it does. It's it's food vendors, memorabilia, you name it. Well, these players were milling about the crowd during the pregame of that, and basically carrying buckets or whatever, raising money. And there's pictures out there with Zdeno Chara, and I think Tuca might have been there. I don't have the pictures right in front of me, but several players from all 4 organizations, the 2 different baseball teams and the 2 hockey teams, were out basically milling about the crowd, raising money for Hurricane Irma relief, which is very nice. Very nice to see these players just circulating in the crowd, just like anyone else. Of course, a guy like Char is going to stand out. He's way bigger than everybody else. But there was a lot of, and I was trying to find an article on the Red Sox website because this took place at their ballpark, and I don't have it. I don't have it queued up, so I wasn't able to find it. But anyway, it was a good story just to see players from several different organizations teaming up together to raise money for a good cause. For sure.
That is really good.
And again, our hearts go out to anybody who suffered severe damages as a result of those storms. I know the Florida Keys got hit really hard.
Yeah.
I saw an article today. 25% of the buildings on the Keys are totally destroyed. So.
Yeah. Boy, that's terrible.
So yeah. Just hopefully that it's mostly vacation houses that got lost. I know you don't want to talk that way, but hopefully it was mostly vacation houses and not people's permanent homes that got lost. But I'm sure there were plenty of those.
Yeah.
All right. So that is pretty much it, unless you have anything else you want to add.
No,
I think we're pretty much done. We've been yammering on here for almost a couple hours now. So.
Yeah. We knocked it out.
We did. Another great week. So looking ahead to next week, we've got why don't we do the Metro Division next week?
Okay.
And then we'll finish with the Atlantic.
Sounds good.
That'll give you a chance to talk about your Rangers.
Yes. We'll definitely get that talk in.
And our local Carolina Hurricanes.
That's right.
By then, both teams will have played, or all the teams in that division will have played 1 or 2 preseason games. Might be able to talk a little preseason hockey there. So we're tentatively scheduled for the next available stream, or the next live stream anyway. Same time, Wednesday the 20th, about 6 p.m. Eastern is when we usually record the show. And barring any changes to either of our schedules, that's probably the time that we'll do it. We may do it later in the evening, or possibly even the following day if I end up having to work too late. Also, I wanted to touch on the Fantasy Hockey League that we're going to be getting going, that's going to be tied to the show. I'm going to be doing a lot of work this week on that, now that, because I'm also involved in fantasy football. Now that the football leagues are up and going, that I'm involved in day-to-day, things calm down with that. Now it's time to get things ramped up with the Fantasy Hockey League. And actually, Steve and I were talking off the air about what we're going to do because of the fact we've got to come up with a draft. First of all, I need to fill all 14 slots, and I haven't really figured out yet how many slots I still got open. So if you are interested in joining the Fantasy Hockey League, get me an email ASAP to feedback@thehockeynuts.com, and we can get you added to the list. And if you've already emailed me, you don't need to email me again. I've got it. I just haven't responded to anything. I just haven't had time to do it. I will get back to you and get you time slotted. Just a couple of details to get us going. It's going to be a fantasy hockey league of 14 teams, I think. We may stretch it to 16 if we have enough interest, but it'll be 14 teams. Each team will carry 20 players on the roster, 20 to 22, somewhere in that neighborhood. And the starting group will be roughly 10 starters. Around 14 starters, I think, is what we do. I don't have the details right in front of me. But the most important details, it is going to be a pay league. It's going to be $50 for the season. And you'll have to get it into us before the start of the draft. The draft date is tentatively set on October 1st. Which is 3 days before opening night. I want to do the draft as late as possible so that any players that get injured during the preseason are not going to screw over your fantasy team. So that's why we do the draft that late. So the draft will be October 1st, probably in the evening. It's all going to be done online. We use the CBS Hockey Commissioner product that they have. Everything's done online. It's a fantastic product. I've always been happy with it. I've never been happy with the Yahoo and the ESPN and whatnot because I like to create my own rules. Once you get in, I will need your email address, and I'll get you set up and get an invite to the league and go from there. So $50 for the season. We're going to do the draft on October 1st, sometime in the evening. I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 p.m. Eastern, somewhere around there, plus or minus a couple of hours. And we'll have the draft. But Steve and I we're planning on, what date do we say? The 19th?
19th.
Steve and I are going to get together to come up with the draft order. Obviously, when you join the league, you don't know exactly when you're going to draft, and we're going to do it complete lottery style. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get a fish bowl or a big bowl, big enough to hold 14 to 16 ping pong balls, and we're going to write on the ping pong balls the team names. And what we'll do is we'll start at number 14 or 16, whatever it is that and we'll pick out of that. Okay, picking 14th, we have, boom, this team. Picking 13th, boom, this team. And we'll go all the way up to number 1. We're going to do that. We're going to record it, put it on our YouTube channel. We'll probably stream it live if we can get it, because we're going to meet at a local restaurant here in Durham, North Carolina. Actually, it's going to be a pretty cool spot to do this. We're going to be at a local restaurant that overlooks the ballpark where the Durham Bulls play. So we'll have that in the background as a nice sight line. But we're going to do the draft order live on YouTube, and then of course if you missed the live stream, it will be recorded and it will be available to watch on YouTube. So between now and then, that's only 6 days from now, I need to get all 14 to 16 spots in the Fantasy Hockey League filled. So if you've been thinking about it and you haven't emailed me yet, you need to get into me, because we will go ahead and get that filled. If all goes to plan, we'll do the lottery on the 19th to determine who picks when, and then the draft itself will be on the 1st of October, and we'll do that live through the software, the CBS software online. So that's the details for now. As you get your names in, we will go ahead and get further details out to you if you're going to actually be involved in the league. Other than that, that's pretty much it.
That sounds good, Wayne. I'm looking forward to being with you in Durham next week. And this should be an interesting thing. I'm going to learn a little bit about fantasy hockey because I've never been involved in it before, but it should be a lot of fun.
Well, the first and foremost, you're going to need one of these. Your Hockey News Pool Guide, or at least that's what I use anyway. That and watching lots and lots of games will tell me who's going to do what. But yeah, it's fun. It's just a fun way to, and it gives me just another reason to watch more hockey. Not that I need another reason, but all right. So that is pretty much it. Again, if you want to email us, our email address is feedback@thehockeynuts.com, and you can tweet us. I'm at Wayne Halley 9. Steve is at SBall504man. You can reach us through our Facebook page at facebook.com/thehockeynuts, and our YouTube channel is at thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. So with that, we will go ahead and wrap it up, and until next week, we will catch you then.
Have a good night, Wayne.
All right, you too. All right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Another good one.
Another good one, man. I tell you what, they're good. Our podcasts are good, man. They really are. They're. I think the great thing that we have going for us is kind of like when I would take a new job. I will say, well, I'm new,
Yep.
but we're just fans, We're not in the press. So
Yep.
I know I make some put my foot in my mouth sometimes but I can come back and say, hey, I screwed up on that. Or
Hey, speaking of which, did you see somebody tweeted me earlier this week telling me something about we couldn't even get the matchups right?
No, I did not.
Oh, let me pull that up real quick. I don't even know what he's talking about. Of course, once we record the show, I have to admit I don't generally listen to it.
Oh, okay. I've listened to every one. I've never missed on one of our podcasts. But, it's only because I get excited listening to it.
Yep. Well, I listen to bits and pieces just to make sure that, everything sounds good.
Yeah.
In terms of the editing and whatnot. But where was it? I want tweets to me. How do I look at that? Following, likes, call. Notifications. Let's do that. Yeah, a guy by the name of Leroy Scala. And, first skeptical thing that tells me is the guy's wearing a Yankee uniform, jersey, New York Yankee jersey, all right? So right now he's got one strike against him. He hasn't even said anything to me yet. On September 11th, he says, please get your facts correct. 90% of what you said was fact. You can't even get the matchups correct. How are you supposed to give good facts?
What's he talking about?
I don't know. He obviously was listening to the show and just had to lash out at us for whatever mistake we made. My response, where's my response to him is where
he
I
said 90% of what we said was correct.
He said, please get your facts correct. 90% of what you said was fact. You can't even get the matchups correct. How are you supposed to give good facts?
Oh.
He must have been referring to our most recent podcast. Something we said wasn't right. I don't know what matchups he's talking about.
Yeah.
Unless we screwed up because we did briefly talk about the rookie tournaments coming up.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even have all that information in front of me at the time. I just mentioned that, hey, we got the rookie tournaments coming up. We got all these teams playing each other. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't think I can have the reply.
Did he respond back? You responded to him, right?
Yeah, I responded to him.
Did he respond back?
No, he never did.
Oh.
That's the thing. And he's also a Hawks fan too. That just
Oh, he's a Blackhawks fan.
yeah.
Yeah.
Blackhawks and Yankees. Yeah, that's a combination, isn't it?
Oh.
Sounds like a front runner to me, right?
got a tweet from somebody over in England who is a television, and he's following us. He said, "Steve, I'm following you."
Oh.
And I've never heard of the guy before, but apparently he's a TV guy. I should see if I can pull it up here. But he selected to follow. I'm sure he probably followed you too. Let's see. Let me see if I can find this guy. Followers, there he is. This guy his name is Steve. Talk Sports Steven. U.S. Sports at EPL Radio, TV analyst. I guess he has his own podcast called Balls, Bats, and Pucks.
So more of a general sports podcast then.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He I guess he said, "I'm following you," or whatever. He tweeted me real quick. That's all he said. But yeah, that's the only guy that.
Yeah, my response to that most recent tweet, Leroy Scala, I basically said, look, we try to do everything, we try to do, as accurate as we can. We are just fans, and then I said, what exactly did we screw up on? And then he never replied. So,
when did you send that to him?
A few hours after he sent it to me.
Oh, okay. Huh. No, I didn't see that. I didn't see, and of course it could be in ones that I have today. I haven't looked at the tweets today. But
Yeah.
I got a bunch of them backlogged here, and that might be one of them. No.
Well, this one was on the 11th when he tweeted me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So much that Twitter stuff is. I mean, it just rolls, man.
Oh yeah.
I can't keep on top of it. And never could. It's really a complex thing. But I mean, some of them guys like for example, Mark Allred, but Jeremy Roenick, those guys are tweeting their brains. Jeremy Roenick,
yeah,
I mean, 10, 15 tweets a day.
Yep. Yeah, some of these guys are tweeting every hour, but
yeah,
you can automate some of that stuff too if you're trying to get a message out that's not of a timely fashion. You can automate that stuff too. So I just saw a tweet an hour ago. Just added, the Caniac Carnival will host a stick sale outside the East Priority Lounge near Section 121. Fans can buy new and used sticks that belong to past and present players in the Hurricanes organization.
Wow.
Used sticks are $80 and new sticks are $120.
Wow.
God, if I needed a new stick, that'd be a good place to get one. Pro sticks are nice.
Yeah.
They're light. They're amazing.
What's the going rate for a good stick? You go to a hockey store.
120 is a good stick for a pro grade stick. It's a good price.
What brand name do you like?
Lately, I've been skating or using Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have an allegiance to a particular brand. I look for a specific type of curve that I like. The way the angle of the blade and the amount of curvature. There's lots of different subtleties in the curve on the stick.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a specific curve I like. So I look for sticks that have that general shape. Because they can range all over the map. Yeah, here's one response to the back. Will there be a limit on what collectors can buy? I'd love to get my 7-year-old and maybe even my 15-month-old one. But I won't fight with adults who want 30 of them. I'd buy one, a new one. I'd buy one for myself to use.
Yeah.
A pro grade stick? Shit. For $120? It's a good price, but I don't need a new stick. I've got 2 good ones, so maybe next year. I don't break sticks often. I'm not that kind of player, so.
Yeah. They're expensive. God, $120. Oof.
Oh, there's some retail shops around that charge $250 for a top of the line brand new stick. But of course, they're taking $125 in profit.
Yeah. That's
Hurricanes are basically selling them at cost.
Mm-hmm.
$80 for a used stick. So.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, man, I'm gonna hustle on off to Buffalo because I got to get up tomorrow and I got to be up at 4:00. So.
Okay.
I'm gonna run.
Cool.
But I will be in touch with you for sure. But count on me being there. I should be there 2:00, no problem. If there's something comes up, I'll let you know. But like I said, I'm 30 minutes from Durham, my house.
Yeah, just give me a call either the night before or that morning.
Okay.
Give me an update, and then we'll go from there. In the meantime, I got to get these slots filled on the league and get all that information together. I probably won't do that tonight, but probably tomorrow night, Friday night, that kind of stuff. I actually don't work until I only work till 6 tomorrow night, so I thought it was 7, but 6 tomorrow night.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah, man. Have a good night.
All right.
Good
you
working
too.
with you. And we will get back in touch with you.
Yep, we'll do.
This weekend.